here. Look at that. What a beauty.
Yeah.
Had those many years, first years as a reporter. That's what we'd all have, of course. That's what everyone had.
And this was cutting edge. We got this from Rocky and the sound crew, and just great to have it, and great to see, and what it means.
#1
for the day today. Yeah, it's a huge deal. Motorola came out with these things.
40 years ago today, the very first public call from a cell phone like that.
Like this, somewhat portable, a little bit clunkier than this, but it all goes back to this guy, Martin Cooper, on the streets in New York City. And here's a picture of him here just a couple years ago. He's 84 years old now. He's accepting a Wed E Lifetime Award for the Internet 2011. But back in the day, he made the first call from the streets of Manhattan to, of all people, his competitor over at AT&T to brag, of course. And he joined Motorola back in 1952, working on two-way radios and pagers, worked with the Chicago police. They wanted to improve their radios in the cars, and it was a big series of antennas in the trunk to help them talk with the station. And eventually that evolved into pagers, into car phones, and the first call 40 years ago today from the streets of New York.
So fast forward then to modern times. That initial call sparked this industry, which is just huge. I mean, give us the State of the Union, I guess, as far as that part of the sector is going.
The State of the Union, there are people born today that don't even know that there was not a world before cell phones. It is that pervasive now in society. Never mind that sound effect, probably people have never heard that before, but there's over 6 billion people have access now to cell phones and to mobile phones. That's more people literally than have access to a modern toilet. There's about 1 billion now shipped per year, 1.5 billion expected in the next few years, and cell phone towers and the spin-offs from everything, social media, Twitter feed, everything, whole world consciousness, the social world is coming from basically the technology of a cell phone at this point, and cell phone towers in places like India, in China, in Africa. People have jumped from having no phones, no televisions, boom, right to the cell phone technology.
Incredible. We mark that anniversary today as you dial up the markets for us overseas.
Let's take a look. We've got some interesting numbers coming out of Tokyo. Look at the surge there, up almost 360 points. The new Bank of Japan governor there saying in the next 2 years he's going to do whatever it takes to end deflation. That means spending. So Tokyo loving that. The rest of the market's somewhat lackluster. Hong Kong, London, most of Europe down 0.25% across the board. The Canadian dollar up a little bit this morning, almost 1/10 of a cent, and we've got a little bit of commodities pulling back, such as oil and gold, a little bit to the downside.
Do you suffer from tired, aching legs, swollen feet or ankles? I did, until I started using the Revitive Circulation Booster.
Revitive Circulation Booster uses electrical muscle stimulation to increase circulation in your lower legs and feet, which could ease swelling and discomfort.
It's so easy to use. Just 30 minutes a day has really made a difference in my life. We're all up here when we can enjoy the things we love. Revive your day with Revitive Circulation Booster.
Available at these fine stores.
Anything can happen on the program. There have been shows on Power and Politics where we have broken a story at the beginning of our show. We've had accountability interviews with the ministers and the opposition. Minutes later, we've had our panel comment on it. Minutes after that, the government has changed its position and we've had a response. So we've raised a question, had a debate, and got an answer all within the cycle of our 2-hour program.
Power and Politics with Evan Solomon, today at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific.
Our top story this morning is the CBC News special investigation into the young Canadians involved in that deadly terror attack in Algeria. 2 of them, high school friends from London, Ontario, turned up in Edmonton. And CBC investigative reporter Charles Rusnell picks up the story from there.
What we found is that the 2 young men moved from London, Ontario to Edmonton in early February 2007. They came here because they had both relatives and friends from their former high school who lived here. Now, we know from court documents that Ali Medlej was 18 and Christos Katsarobas was just 16 when they moved into a rented condo on the south side of Edmonton. From their previous landlord, we learned they had a string of menial jobs and they finally ended up unemployed and flat broke. As these court documents show, Medlej and Katsarobas and another friend from London got caught shoplifting from a grocery store on March 25, 2007, they actually tried to push a cart full of groceries out of the store. They pled guilty and received fines, which they didn't pay. But that wasn't the end of their troubles. In May of 2007, their landlord learned from another tenant that these teens were trashing their condo. As you can see here, they found smashed windows, holes punched in doors and walls, and the teens living in filthy conditions. The landlord told me that even though the teens were given plenty of notice, they were completely unprepared when they showed up to evict them. She told me the teenagers were polite and even helped move their own furniture and belongings onto the sidewalk. She said they clearly had no idea what they were going to do. Now, we know from our sources that when they were in Edmonton, CSIS was checking into Medledge and Katsarobis. We don't know for certain, but we believe they moved back to London, Ontario shortly after they were evicted. And how they went from being unemployed, flat broke petty criminals to alleged terrorists involved in a murderous attack in Algeria is still a mystery. Charles Rusnell, CBC News, Edmonton.
North Korea has cut off one of its last avenues of connection to the rest of the world. The North is today blocking South Korean workers from entering a joint industrial zone. The move is another red flag in the standoff between Pyongyang and the South and other Western nations. Anne McMillan is watching the latest developments from London.